Everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can paint. Oh, let me show you guys the references. This fabulous daylily in a beautiful glass vase. We're going to be doing this step by step. I'm going to explain to you every part of the process, everything that we're going to be doing, so that you can create this for yourself at home. To help me do that, on the mic is my husband, John.
Hey, guys.
Wait, I thought I turned it off. Too many bubbles, yo! This is that moment when you're like, oh, it is live. These people be crazy. So to help me do that, John is going to track me with one of our many robotic cameras. He's going to zoom in on the action. You're going to be able to see every technique. You're going to see every mix of paint. There's literally nothing you're going to be missing. We really try to make this as transparent as possible. If you check the description below, you're going to see a link that says like TS and a bunch of numbers. If you click, it's going to take you to our website. And on that page is your own version that you can grab. You just like grab on the desktop and print out of the grid reference. Also, traceable if you just don't want to be bothered with any of that. That's okay. It's not required. That's there for you to print out and use for free as well. Both of those things are free. The materials are in the description below. We may simplify as we go through the painting. You guys ready to jump on in and just paint this gorgeous day? This is a daylily or a Easter? What kind of lily is this? Sure. Internet, tell me.
It's a white lily.
It's a white lily. We're going to paint a white lily step by step in acrylic on canvas for beginners. That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing.
A white
today.
lily. All right, let me turn this around.
All right.
On this surface here, we have an 11 by 14 artboard. I grabbed these at Michael's. They're very economical. And for the purposes of what I'm doing here, they're fine. You may want to get something fancier. You may have a stretch canvas. It's all fine. On here, we like to put wishes and intentions. We get these from the community. We have a healing and health wish for Karen and her hubby. We want to see them happy, healthy, and everything successful and home soon. We have John and I personally wish safety and health to the world. Just a little PSA. It's a good time to get a flu vaccine. We did for our family. It's not my favorite thing to do, but we do it. We have a wish that Kelly's health will be fantastic and she'll feel very much healed and just like herself and all recovered. And Melissa, she has, okay, this is the cutest thing. Melissa painted Gil the goldfish on her cast with bubbles and everything. So an excellent use of your art skills, Melissa. And she's wishing that her thumb surgery is super successful and she's back to having who's got 2 thumbs and feels better? Melissa! So, anyways, I think I did that joke wrong, John. Coffee. There's not enough of it in me this morning.
So, this is not a channel about humor, even though it is kind of funny to watch.
Yeah, I'm funny for the wrong reasons. But that's okay. Like, as long as I know that, I'm not like, if this YouTube thing doesn't work out, stand up. Yeah, that's what. I'm not going to try out for Idol. You're not going to see me on X Factor or Masked Singer. Maybe Masked Painter if they do that show. Let's talk about the paint colors. Oh, let me put this back up. So I've got Mars Black here, Phthalo Green, Phthalo Blue, Burnt Sienna, Yellow Ochre, Cad Yellow Medium, Titanium White. I may just on the stamens add a little bit of cadmium red. It's such a small amount that I'm not going to put it out yet. And if you had another red, it would be just fine. We just want to kind of maybe add a little orange component to the stamens. And if you just had burnt sienna, you'll be okay. Because this is a very tonal painting. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my abstract acrylic, Sun by Sunlayer. These paint companies, this is the same. These paint companies are the same. This is their student grade paint, which is pretty fantastic and very economical. And this is their professional paint, which is also very fantastic and maybe less economical, but very high quality. So I'm going to take this because this is that kind of background painting, right? I'm just going to put this out. Look, I'm like those abstract painters. Now what I need is 15 bazillion views for that. Because that seems to be the trend, right? No.
Maybe you'd have to.
It is the trend. I'm just saying.
What you got to do something unusual, like.
No, they don't do anything unusual. They just put out paint and then paint
drag a shoestring through it.
Huh?
Drag a shoestring through it.
Drag a shoestring through it. Yes, that's what it is. Anyways, short of that, that's the only thing we're going to have in common today with any of that because we're really just trying to get a bunch of black paint on our canvas. Now listen, guys, pro tip, not really, just a long-time artist tip. Very often, canvases that are pre-gessoed black are on sale, and you can even get sometimes better quality canvases for less money. So when you know you've got a lot of black paintings that are done on a black surface that you're going to do, just run by to that section of the store and make sure that they're not on some weird, crazy, deep discount. Now look, student black, right? I'm never trying to make you just like upgrade for no reason. You can see that that's quite good. That's why this is the one student paint that I will recommend, is because look, it's one coat.
That is
price point to the other student paints. By the by,
I'm going to give an art high five to Kim, who
Kim.
was our first patron today.
First patron of the day.
Give some
See, not going on X-Files.
The bubble loves there.
I mean, on X-Files, yes, but not on X-Factor.
I'm going to agree with Angie.
Look,
who
my
said,
canvas is camouflaged.
It is.
It's done. Professional piece. This is the follow-up to Taped Banana.
You call it Event Horizon?
Only if I get to paint it with Vanta Black. I feel like stealing some Vanta Black.
You should go buy one of the new BMWs that are painted with it.
And then park it in front of my black canvas. Thank you so much, Kim. I'm sorry. Look at the top of my... Hey, I'm here!
Where are you? Okay, so Angie, you know what Angie said?
What did Angie say?
Cinnamon needs to create a Sherpa plaid. Because you wear so much plaid, you need your own plaid pattern.
Okay, look. This acrylic April... Do you guys remember Tosh 2.0? If any of you watched that, and he'd be like, this neck is the crew neck tee or the V-neck tee.
Okay, that is...
All of acrylic April is the plaid collared shirt.
That's sort of
pink hair the whole way through, plaid collared shirt.
Except this is sort of like Mr. Rogers saying, have you watched Gallagher?
I bet Mr. Rogers would say, have you watched Gallagher? Because he liked lots and lots of artists. And Gallagher wasn't mean. He just didn't like mean pie face people. People put pie in your face. He didn't like mean comedy, but he liked funny comedy. Gallagher wasn't mean.
Okay.
So and messy. Messy is okay. I'm going to dry my canvas.
You're going to dry your canvas. So, guys, I agree with you. Sherpa plaid is definitely in the making. That's something I'll come back around and tell her that she should be definitely considering is some more Sherpa plaid. And, yeah, make sure that you don't use heat when applying your black because you can color shift that black and that'll make it, not so black. So don't use heat. Just make sure you use just air and that'll be just fine. Again, you notice that it isn't doing it here. It's a pretty good quality student paint. So this is why we end up using that stuff in here. So again, this is, especially see it in craft paint. There's a good example of where you'll see that a lot. So just sort of be careful there. And there she is. She's back.
I'm here. I'm back. Did you talk too long?
I don't know.
Let me get a rag and go around the edges of my canvas. The fun thing about artboards is that sometimes the paint hides on the sides.
Heidi
gets
paint.
me during the live. It jumps up and gets me. As it do. All right, I'm going to take a T-square, sir.
Okay.
And this Dritz Talk tool. Now, there's been a lot of discussion about the Dritz Talk tool. Because some of the quilters left some reviews on these saying it was staining fabric and there was wax. I wrote the company, heard back from their product department. This is clay-based chalk. What they said is that on fabric, you definitely want to test to see if the pigments are staining to your particular type of fabric. And I have to agree that's probably why there is that. It's been removing from my canvas beautifully. And I do recommend this tool. I'm going to come across here, and every 1 inch, I'm going to make a mark, John.
Are you?
I probably could have done this on a 2-inch grid, but I got all fussy today and said, let's do 1. And I'm going to do this across the entire top. Right? This is vertically. I like to make sure these things match. It's real easy for me to get off square. There's a little bit, me. I'm me.
So,
And I'm going to use this tool to keep straight lines because otherwise my lines would be all weird wonkety.
Lumberjacks may have to have a conversation with you for, culturally appropriating their plaid.
I do not mean to culturally appropriate the lumberjack community. So I am a fan of Paul Bunyan. Does that count?
We'll have to consult with them. I don't know.
I liked Paul Bunyan and Big Blue very much. I was super, anytime we had to do anything with them in school, I was super excited.
I have to say, I don't feel comfortable speaking for any community, much less an axe-wielding one.
Right? People who are like, you know what we should do this weekend? Throw a log. And you're like, that's not a log. What's in my fireplace is a log. What you're throwing is a tree.
Actually, there's a word for it. It begins with a K. I think they call them, like, it's where they take a tree it's like a Viking sport where, like, oh, see that tree that fell over? We're going to go pick it up and throw it.
Tree tossing.
Yeah, no, I'm not kidding.
Elephants are like, hey, that's my thing.
They have a crazy name for this thing.
I bet the internet knows what the crazy name is.
I'm sure they do, and they're going to be like, all of them are screaming it right now at their screen.
This thing that they know that we don't know as well.
Yeah, but either way, don't mess with lumberjacks.
That's the lesson.
I think.
Don't mess. I'm going to make my marks again here. Don't mess with lumberjacks. So what you can see us doing here is we do try to keep our banter entertaining.
while we're drawing straight lines.
While we're drawing and endless. We do sometimes do these on time lapses, but then every once in a while I don't get one recorded ahead of time. So you get a real time grid. Aren't you lucky? You're so lucky. It must feel so good that you got to watch me draw lines. Real time. All right, I'm going to use this tool again in theory, and I'm going to come along and mark every 1 inch again. And guess what?
Cables. That's right, Anne. They're called cable toss.
Cable toss?
Yeah, it's a tree tossing sport. I'm not kidding. Like, if you thought, hey, see that telephone pole? I think I can throw it farther than you. Then you would be you would be a contender in cable.
Do you know what I got, John?
What?
Skip a rock.
You know, that's much
the
more
full of my whoop.
Well, see, the Canadians kind of did that with they took skip a rock, bowling, and sweeping, and then they made a sport.
Yeah, I'm always like at the Olympics going, what are we doing here? Curling. Like, if I could just make this a sport in my house, I could trick the kids into cleaning.
The cool thing about curling is you don't necessarily have to set your beer down to do it.
John. Laughing is a very dangerous distraction when gridding. My husband likes to make me laugh when gridding because he knows it'll throw me off. But it's okay because we've been married a long time. And that's what marriage is. Couples deciding where to go to dinner for a very long time. Where do you want to eat? I don't know. Where do you want to eat? A friend of mine told me that joke.
Although you look at American pastimes, what giant thing did we did? We did monster trucks.
Yeah, that's John's theory is like, this is why you don't mess with America, monster trucks, because that's what we do with our free time.
Right, exactly.
We don't sweep a hockey puck. No, sirree, Bob. We run over other large cars with bigger cars that like have flames. I don't know how big monster trucks are globally, like around, but like in the South, it's like a whole thing here.
It's like, yeah.
Like I think that's an official school field trip.
You could probably go on YouTube right now and say, what would a Prius look like if it were on, say, 36-inch monster, and that's not even this small, like
actually,
40
that's the Starbucks in the morning where we are.
Right. I'm not even kidding. You just
Starbucks has got a few of those. Like, actually, what it is it's the Jeep crew, the customized Jeep crews. Our Starbucks.
Those are predictable. That's like you can get. That's pretty predictable. It's when you see, we took a Miata and lifted it. And
okay, before anyone comes in and is like, "This is stupid banter," why are they talking? Because we're drawing a bunch of lines. That's why. It's okay. You can have a conversation when drawing lines. Just because I know I'm going to have to answer that comment from some brain trust. Jeez. Why are you going to talk so much? Because it's an art class. That's my not using the word time-lapse silent video with music. Titles, that's what they're for. I get a little punchy when I have too many lines to draw. Apparently.
Lots of straight lines.
I should have done it on the 2-inch grid. Ugh. The nice thing about the 1-inch grid is even if your drawing skills are a little bit off, the 1 by 1 will help you keep them. Now, I do my grids with numbers across the top, and the reason for that is that with certain objects, like complex objects like roses or extreme perspective, sometimes a smaller, more like precious little grid helps. I know it helps me keep track of where I am, so I can be like, I'm on vertical row 4, horizontal row, 5, and that way I can find where I am. Otherwise, I get lost in the grid. So consider this your coordinates.
Mm.
I'm waiting for the time when I like number it wrong, though. Like, I feel like that's a thing that's likely to be coming. I'm going to begin here at the bottom, my friends. So if this is the 5 and 6 vertical column, I'm going to come to the bottom on row 11 and start the bottom of the vase. So you can see that's where it is. And then all I've got to do is sort of duplicate what I see here, right, with what's on the grid.
Mm.
And if I do that, what will happen is I will end up with an image that's a very good replica. I'm on row 9. 9 and 9, okay. See, already, it's helped me. I'm on 7. Look, I get all quiet. Because then you can hear my brain burning, right? The wonderful thing is this is the little glass vase is, not a particular extremely challenging thing to do. So even if you get it a little off, when this is your first grid, this is a great first grid. There we go. And then I'm just going to firm up that line. Look at me go.
Mm.
Yeah, I've drawn a half circle in a very most complicated way possible. But this does help make the water line a little bit easier. Right? Sometimes that can be really challenging, hitting these water lines. Getting them where they actually are in the image can be really challenging. So bless this option. And we have some interesting perspective here that we got on the vase, so this will help with that water perspective. Because you can see it's just like, whoa, that's crazy perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't necessarily be just super easy to do without this. I'm going to say, hey, right here, there's that cool green segment. Let's do, oh gosh, there's a nice leaf here. We'll start one here.
Check that.
You check that right out, sir. You're over my shoulder. Sometimes we're live and people still come in. So that is our life. Also, you never know, because sometimes our dog barks like someone's here and it's just the neighborhood cat, of which the dog is having a whole feeling about in life. You can see I'm just drawing what square I'm in. So if the line enters here and X there, that's all I've got to draw. And that can keep things just a little less frustrating for you. And this is kind of a friendly flower as flowers go to draw, because it's got very simple shaped leaves and things.
I have to say it was only the dog barking delivery person.
Ooh, did we get anything good?
Mascara.
Oh, honey's mascara. You needed that.
You needed to know that, America.
You now know it. My daughter needed mascara. Okay. So it's going to come like this. And then here in 4, we enter and come there. On 3. Then up the side of 3 a bit. So maybe the most complicated of the leaves that we have here, and yet with this process we can kind of get it in simply. It's not really a leaf as much as it is a petal. This is a great way to get any photo reference, like from your trips or anything, onto a surface. I do put software that's really good in the description so that you can use that.
Use it.
Use it, my friend. The answer, my friend, is that software. And I'm just, again, duplicating this down. Don't worry, for acrylic April, these go a little faster. And if this just seems too crazy for you, guess what? Is traceable. Sometimes I have to like go, did I get the right square? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I totally got the right square. Oh, I gotta go. I didn't go down far enough. I need to be on 6. So see, that's a thing that I will see and not see.
What has been seen cannot be unseen.
That which has been seen cannot be unseen across 7 here. And 9. So that would have been hard for me just to process on my own. Because sometimes certain angles, certain things are difficult for me. On line 6 here, I'm going to come in and start my leaf, which is still contained within grid 5. Now, I do think that there is value in drawing from life. Right? There is. And it's fun. And I wouldn't say don't do it. It isn't the only way to do something, and it's important to know that there are valid ways to do a lot of things. Valid. Lots of them. Now, I'm not going to worry about the stamens because a lot of stuff has got to get painted in, so all I've really got to do now is my little pod coming off, which is mostly in 4, and if I go into 9, it comes here through 9. Into 10, we begin to deviate and start the, there we go, that. Interesting little narrow seed pod, isn't it? Oh, not seed pod, but flower bud.
Flower.
Soon to be.
Bud?
Yeah, it's a flower bud.
I don't know, it's kind of like a pod.
There we go. That's what we got to do. Once you have everything in, you can start to discuss with your chalk all the things. So that's good things, right? All the things. Now, my 2 cents is it's good about now, you don't need the whole rest of the grid for the rest of the painting, so you can come in and with a damp brush and clean water, remove a good chalk grid. If you pressed too hard, or you made indentions, or you chalked while the canvas was still warm, guess what else you can do? You just come back with black paint.
Oh, that's what you were grabbing. I was trying to
see.
say.
On this one, that's a particularly easy solution to dispense the grid. And sometimes is even nice because it gives you that next level of coat of paint if you needed it. Probably don't. There's been great debate about what this brush is. It is a fantastic brush for clouds. This is the number 12 Silverstone. It is an oil brush typically with a really nice hog bristle, and it just holds up well. It does a lot of wonderful things, but in this particular case, I'm just using it for big work. Right? Sometimes you just pick a tool because you're like, oh, that's big, and it'll get this whole thing done fast. I don't want to be here forever with this nonsense. I have other nonsense I want to spend my time on and focus my attention on. So that was a long gridding section. I know, guys.
So at the end of this, I have something to celebrate.
We do?
We do.
I want to celebrate something. I'm
I wanna
always about celebrating something.
Barbara, who says, the talking and bonding with us and the witty banter is what sets cinema apart for the rest. Don't ever change. Double hearts.
Oh my goodness, I'm going to take some double hearts over here and bubble that, Barbara, if I may. And also a good excuse to get my coffee going.
Coffee, drink some coffee, celebrate how awesome everybody is who's hanging out and doing something today. And look at that. We got 420 people over here hanging out with us right now. Nice to see everybody over there. And look, now there's 428, and then there's 432, and there's just like there's lots of you.
If you're brand new to the channel, welcome.
Hello,
We're gonna
everyone.
make a painting hug, and if you're somebody who's been here since day one, bigger bear hug.
That's nice to see everyone today. How's it going?
That's a little weird and threatening, right? A little aggressive. Bear hugs, but it's okay.
I'm
going to dry this because I don't want any of the black pigment getting into my...
You gotta be careful when Cinnamon puts on the plaid. She gets overly confident. So maybe it's not overly confident. Maybe it's appropriately confident. It's Sherpa confidence. Dun dun dun. All right. So all that aside, she's just making sure that she touches up and dries that, because the background really should be, at this point, as much as you can. If you can clean it up and make it a nice, consistent, even background, it'll make the piece later nicer. Just ultimately, this is the background, this is the furthest back, so the most even you can make that background right now, the better that final piece will be. And you'll be able to touch up some areas where the painting goes a direction you didn't necessarily expect, like if a flower goes in the wrong direction or something. You don't have to worry about that because you can just black it right on out. But
Woo!
The better job you do now, the better.
All right. That's fantastic. You know what I forgot to do?
No idea. I forgot everything.
Get my phone. Can I have your phone?
My phone?
Yeah, I just want to take some pictures.
Mine's horrible.
But you know what your phone is? Here and findable.
A phone. Hold on a second.
Whereas mine is, I think, in the bedroom where I left it because I was listening to a book on tape before the show and walked away from it. You ever do that? Oh my goodness. So I'm coffeeed up. Now what we're going to begin doing with this is, when you're looking at what you paint and when, you want to look at where you have long fluid brush strokes or brush strokes that you feel are... Okay, that'll be fine. John's going to grab my phone. The whole thing, I was like, but babe, it's like really easy to choose your phone. Your phone's fine for this. Your phone's fine. Oh, she is? Okay, cool. All right. Well, that's good. Telling about what thing? Oh, okay. So when you're looking at deciding how to take like a photo reference and turn it into a painting, I often advise students to paint the things that are furthest back. Even in still lifes, this is a good idea to paint from the back forward. Full candor. There are other ways to do it. You might do it a different way. You might be like, no, I like to paint forward back. That's, I think, more challenging, but it doesn't break some unwritten rule in the world. I'm going to start with a number 8 bright. This is a ruby satin bright. I'm going to start painting in the vase. Now, in the vase, we have kind of a mix of blue happening here, and I like the blue. And it's a really, the plain blue. Oh my gosh, I'm tongue-tied. Guys, I'm sorry.
Taylor?
Hi, I'm the Art Sherpa. I'm going to show you how to do this. So I'm going to take this number 8. I'm going to load up my blue brush. I'm going to pull paint back. If you flip the brush over, it loads more into the belly. I'm going to come right here underneath the leaf, and I want to paint the darkest shadow. Thank you, Dove, my most amazing daughter. And above this dark value. Now, this almost looks black over the black, but believe it or not, that blue cast will show. And I'm going to pull this forward. It's also going to help as we're painting kind of the values and everything on the surface. Isn't that great? Pretty easy to do. Blue, blue, blue. So it's very bright. We have a lot going on today. There's just so much happening. You guys have no idea. How much is going on? Right now, I'm going to come over with this dark blue here as well. I don't take out all of my chalk lines because, you know, they're still helpful. And underneath here, kind of coming forward. And in the traceable, I even showed some of these lines underneath the leaf, maybe a little bit back into that nice square shape, coming down around the top of the water line. Again, this dark value. Now, if you use a chalk, like if you use a high quality chalk pencil or pastel, like a Caran d'Ache, the white pigment from the chalk will lighten the phthalo blue a bit. This is a very inexpensive chalk. We don't get that result from it. And come back kind of almost into like a little square right here. And I'm going to come off the water line here.
This is phthalo blue, right?
All just phthalo blue. I haven't even changed out of the phthalo blue. I was looking for something that when I painted it, we could do it with like maybe a few less colors. I'm going to come under here and paint this little triangle of the deep phthalo. I like that little triangle of the deep phthalo. So that's pretty good of my deep, deep value, right? We look good. It's hard to see, but what starts to happen is, so say I grab my phthalo blue and I grab a bit of my titanium white. And I come here, I can start to paint that in. And it's really going to show. And I'll bring it through this reflection. Kind of coming down here. And because I'm just working my blue, white, and black, I'm going to have a real easy time getting all of my shadow values. But the first point that I want to get is just sort of like the dark value and a couple values up. Let's come around here. We're not doing too bad, are we?
Mm-mm.
You can bring this just a bit across the water line on the edge of the brush. Do you see how we did that? Now, what I do with these pictures, if you're wondering, like you're brand new to the show, and why is this lady taking pictures? What is that about? Because if I can, I put up step-by-steps where you can kind of see where we were at that part of the painting, follow the step-by-step. So if you're really, really new, it lets you paint a level above your normal comfort zone. And it also just makes the painting experience just a little more chill and relaxing. Maybe a little more white for this one, because it's quite light. Come across here. And you can see I am covering the dark. I love painting glass because of this, what we got going on here. I just love how we can do this because the values come in really fast. I'm going to get a lot more blue into my brush, but I haven't rinsed out the white. And that's going to leave this darker, a value darker. I don't want it quite as dark as the first pure phthalo blue, but I do want it darker than the layer above it. So I may have to come even more into my white. More into my blue. And you can see I'm pulling that down, darkening that value one shade. As we do. It's not bad, is it?
Not at all.
Now, also going on here, we have some interesting green that we want to get in. So I'm going to start with kind of a deep value green. I'm going to take a little of my burnt sienna into my phthalo green, and I'm going to grab some cad yellow. And this will be the darkest value. Of the stems down here. Let's paint that in. Put that a little bit on an angle. Isn't that nice?
Mm-hmm.
We're just on the edge of the brush and we're painting in big segments. This isn't our lightest value we will be doing by any means. I'm going to get some more of my green and I'm going to come a little yellow. I want it to be dark, but it does need to show. I'm going to come over here and add that green. And pretty soon we're going to take a picture because it's a lot to get to right here. I'm going to put a pop of green here. Pop of green right there. And let's bring down a little more yellow into it because these are, bring down these greens. because these will be the stems. I can even come above there, sort of put this in above my lip line.
Hmm.
Underneath here. Maybe one stroke out there, and then kind of one right here. So what we're doing is we're just putting that general value in. The other place I can put some greens. Right here. And I think we need a little bit of our blue, but our dark blue right there. Carry that dark blue through. And go ahead and pull up to your water line. I'm going to divide these two green spots. I know we're being very specific, but that's what we need to do. Bring that blue back around here. It's also sometimes nice to, even though we're going to come through on the vase and put up certain reflections that really make the glass, carrying some of the colors through will also be helpful later. All right, so let's call that step 2. How do you guys feel about that for step 2?
Pretty awesome. And
Pretty
while
awesome.
you're doing that, I'm going to say to Beck, thank you, Beck. She says she sent an awesome little pear sticker saying, you are amazing.
I love when I get me some pears.
And so,
because, like, do you think YouTube knew about how popular pears were from the show, from the Big Art Quest, and that's why they picked pears? Probably not. Oh, but I like to be cheeky. Can I throw you some bubbles and sip my coffee with you, girl?
absolutely.
Beck, these bubbles are for you.
Thank you, Beck. And thank you to all
This
of our
coffee
patrons
is
out
for
there
me.
who are supporting us and helping make sure that we can stay here on YouTube doing our thing. We appreciate your support. We really appreciate everybody who helps. And, you know, if you take that time right now to click that subscribe button, then
It's
click
helpful.
that bell.
We've done 1,000 videos. We're going to do 1,000 more. If you'd like a bunch of free art videos, that would be a good idea to subscribe, especially for April, where there'll be a new painting video every day, starting from very easy, progressing through the skills to like some more advanced stuff, like in this really sequential thing for Acrylic April. So you really want to subscribe so you don't miss any of those videos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know. I'm talking about it a lot lately. I realize I am. Talking about it a lot. I'm going to keep working on my vase. One thing that I do want to do is I'm going to take out my chalk here a bit, because I need to clearly see where my glass line is going to be. And it's not really helpful to me at that moment for that chalk line. It will be helpful, but right now is not helpful. You can always clean up around your vase if you need to. Like if you painted over or you did anything you didn't like, by coming back with your Mars black. That's one of the reasons why painting on a black canvas can be really pleasant, is because as you paint, you know, you can always go back and paint things out easily. I'm going to take a bit of my white into my phthalo blue, and I'm going to come around the outside of my canvas with a slightly lighter than our deepest blue, but slightly lighter blue. You can see. Come very carefully around that.
Just that little outer.
Yes, just dragging the brush on the chisel edge on the side, just pulling it around. I like to think of this as like a matchbox car that we're just steering around. And we're just trying to break up the idea of how our glass vases are shaped, right, with this color. Come here, right over the top of my green, and then definitely through here. So we've got the top of the lips. We've really started to shape what's going on. Now, lots more white into our blue. A lot more white. And sometimes it can be nice to get a little yellow or a kind of slightly different color into it to even play hues against each other. Right here, we're going to start to pull in some of these lighter reflections. There we go. pulling it in. I love doing these. It's just really pleasant for me. You can always get more deeper blue if you want to darken it. So you're just almost monochromatic painting here. And brought more blue back in to where that white is, if you guys can see. And I'm just going to keep playing. Those colors against each other. Left a little bit of the dark, building up a little bit of the highlights. Also over here. Still on my number 8 bright. Isn't that enjoyable to do? I love painting glass. On a Saturday. Oh, look at that. Adding that highlight at that outer edge. How are you guys following along with this? Is this going well? Okay. All right. Okay, over my right shoulder. So I'm going to keep painting. I'm going to grab a lighter color. I'm going to come right here and make sure this is still catching it. Add a little more white. Let's come here and talk about some of these little reflections that we're starting to see. And I just pull the brush down, if you can see, just pulling it down, creating little segments. It'd be helpful also to pull the brush back, showing some of that little outer edge. A little more white. I'm right here. And just continue to highlight in these different areas. And so again, it just builds up and builds up and builds up. I'm going to get a lighter blue, but I'll mix into here, and I'm going to come underneath here. Right
so
here.
Sharon says,
hi, Sharon.
Sending some love everyone's way. Thank you, John and Cinnamon, for being such a spark of light and sharing your passion for art with us.
I got to bubble that, girl.
Gosh. Thank you, guys.
We got a bubble for that. We got a bubble in just a little bit. It's actually a good time. It's good when you're... I almost put my brush in my coffee. Who's done that? It's okay. It's cold anyways. Just use it as brush water. I have actually done that where I was like out of water and I had like cold coffee and I just thought, meh, I'm not drinking it anyways. What's a little coffee going to do to the paint?
Someone was just asking about the paint water over there and they were asking me to zoom in on it and I'm not sure why.
Here you go.
Yeah, I can...
There's nothing added into it. It's just regular paint water. I generally keep 2 jars around, and then sometimes John has to get me fresh water during the shower.
You keep moving it around.
Okay,
Stay put.
It's just water.
Yep.
That looks darker than it is. It's because this is actually the cleaner water than the blue. It's just because the black pigment was in there.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see that. There. Hopefully that was helpful. If it helped you, that would be great. And you keep playing with these wonderful little colors here. Pulling some blue into my white, and then maybe coming here and touching a little bit of this and pulling that in, as you do. Pulling up a little reflection there. Now, there's a dark blue kind of pulling, but it's got just a bit of light to it, and I'm going to start pulling that in off the side, which is a bit the glass. I've got a similar one right here. Lighter than the background blue, but still pretty dark. That I got to talk about. And that's what you're doing. You're just building up the different values of what you see. A little more white. I'm pulling that into that initial blue. And let's really come here. And there's some really interesting spots. There's like a little white spot right there. I use the corner of the brush sometimes if I want it to be round. And let's make a just painting what you see. And it's sometimes nice, one of the reasons that we like to maybe share the references sometimes is it helps you see how we're converting the photo into a painting. Which can feel, sorry, I'm getting white again. I'm going to, there'll still be a lighter kind of space there because that's sort of a reflection for a different something. I'm gonna add a little reflection right there. Coming on the edge a bit. There we go. Over here now. Similar deal. What are we doing? We're adding the brightest of the reflections that we can. I always like to reserve a little bit for white for when I want to make a super bright detail line. I'm going to wipe that brush off just in case too much water went up my handle. Not as bad as water going up your nose. And again, this white highlight right there. And you can see what we're getting. I want a little yellow into this one weirdly. Almost a turquoise down here.
You're just trying to find that color, huh?
I'm just trying to find the color in the value. I want to make a lighter spot. I'm looking for these little spots that I will lighten, and then if I come into this white there, and then I put that white spot right there. And so you can kind of see that this glass is starting to be reflective.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to take a picture because a lot just happened there, and I want you guys to be able to figure out how to get to this space and see what we have going on there. But it very quickly starts to look like glass.
Yeah, it does.
Let's get some of the green going. The green looks good, right?
Yeah.
So we're toning our green with a little bit of our burnt sienna. I have not changed out of my number 8 round. Do you guys love, not number 8 round, that's a number 8 bright. But do you guys love that we're still in this bright, just like trucking along going, yeah, we're in a bright. Come here and begin to talk about this little stem reflection. A little bit that. Add some white to this. Interestingly enough, bisecting halfway across here. And a creamy little tone. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little yellow. And a little more white. There we go. There we go. Up, up, up. Just speaking to the stems a bit. Because sometimes you've got to. You can always come back with your just phthalo green. Look at that. It will pop. Phthalo green against these colors will pop as almost like a whole different. And I like to keep it around for that reason. I've just grabbed my green and more into my yellow, and I may come across here, making kind of a horizontal line. Showing that stem going that way. And I can start to bring this up here. You can always go lighter, can't you? Starting to talk about that reflection across there. Into my green, green, green. Across here with a little bit of a highlighted green. Across there a little bit with the highlighted green. Just talking loosely about the stems in the reflection. Back over here into my yellow. And these guys, just capturing, you can kind of see that I just am applying these little highlighted bits. It's looking okay. It's looking all right. We're not unhappy with it. A little bit of that stem there. It's fun to do the stuff with it. A lot more yellow into my mix. And some white. Really going to pop those values. A little bit of a whoa there. Fun stuff, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
A little of my green into my phthalo blue. Subtle thing. A little green into the phthalo blue.
Sandy was asking, is there a trick to seeing undertones in a photo?
A trick. In that, when you look at a photo and you're trying to see what color it is, right? First, identify the color family. Is it red, yellow, or blue? Is it green, orange, or purple?
Mm-hmm.
When you identify the color families in the photos, then you can look at the bias of the color. And you can be like, is it a red bias? It is a blue bias? It is a green bias? You know, which way is the color leaning like? So ultramarine has a red bias, whereas phthalo blue has a green bias. I could have done either on here, but I knew that there was much more of a kind of aquamarine bias to all of this. So that's how I knew to start with the blue underneath there. But look at the color families first. If you have a lot of color family across a piece, you're going to begin to notice that there's almost a cast to it. And then you need to ask yourself, how will the layering work? So if there's a lot of purple in a piece, it's tough to layer it with yellow ochre. It might be better if you want harmonies to layer it with a blue.
And that's pretty, and that's, yeah.
My strategy anyways. Maybe a couple little bits there. I don't want to get too crazy. A little bit there. Now here under the lip, I got to make sure I put some dark blue back for the shadow under the lip. So I'm going to get right just into my blue. I'll come here. I'm kind of making a weird shape with my body, which is odd, but I may even shape it up top with this blue. Because even though the background's black, we're going to kind of do it blue. That way there's just sort of this continuity. Back into my white. Just talking about the lip a bit. And the last thing that you have is you'll have these bright white reflections in your glass. They're just like super bright, super white, super reflective. You'll need to get into those. I'm going to keep going with my, might need clean water. My white has really skinned today. We're running a lot of AC.
Hmm.
There we go. Skinning is where the top of the paint dries. I'm using some whites. And I'll put those a few places where I see them in the piece. Sometimes it's little dots like that. These are brighter colors than the rest. Quite lovely, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And when you get back from it, it just looks great.
Oh, it really does.
Now, the surface of this had this really cool kind of light reflection-y thing that I did very much enjoy. How I'm going to get that problem, I'm going to just clean up the bottom of my vase. See what I'm doing?
Yeah.
You can always clean up the bottom of your vase. All right, so how we're going to get that little reflection? I'm going to use this fluid paint. Woohoo! And I'm going to use a dotting tool. If you don't have a dotting tool, this is my Art Sherpa dotting tool, but if you don't have that tool, right? And I'm going to flip this surface over so it's closer to...
Then you won't be able to
paint.
hang out with all the cool dotting kids at the park.
Yeah, no one's going to judge you.
That's...
The dots are very close together, almost a single thing here in the center.
Where did you move that up?
And I'm just, the reason I flipped it upside down and moved it over here is so that I had
Oh, there it is.
less distance to travel with my,
I was trying to see what you were doing there. Your little dotting.
yeah, dotting.
But you could potentially dot with the back of a brush.
You could potentially dot with the back of a brush or...
Pretty much anything.
anything. Toothpicks. Now I'm going to get it kind of right side up, make sure I'm seeing it correctly. But this is that cool reflection that we were enjoying there.
Oh, yeah.
Where the glass is maybe pitted. And some light caught it. Using my big dotting tool. The big side of the dot. And then the little side of the dot. You kind of get that a little bit, and then you just disperse that light out. And it's neat, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You can also always, like, add little dots of reflection here and there. If you've already got it out anyways.
Now, can I talk about your color selection for a minute?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I'm noticing in chat is that there's been a lot of questions, comments, like, it's very interesting that you chose this intense blue instead of a gray silver, and where there's several folks
look how good
could
it
I
looks.
do that, and then several folks saying, wow, they really wouldn't have thought that, but it looks so good and intense. But I've noticed that you do this a lot in your painting selection.
Yeah, I tend to have a very saturated palette. My nature, I enjoy that to my eyes and stuff better. And that's really just about the style of painter that you are. It isn't right or wrong. There are a lot of great painters that paint a lot more saturated palette, and that's okay. Like not as saturated, more saturated. What's important is value. How light or how dark something is. I could have done this with purple and it would still look good. I could have done this with red and it would just look like red water. If you really listen to or see, if you visually see what's going on with your values, your paintings will still kind of pull together no matter what you do with the color. Hey, babe, can I get some fresh water?
Okay.
And I wish fresh coffee, but for sure heat up coffee. So that's where we're at right there. Let me get a picture of this because we did a lot of work there. And you guys are going to want to see how you got there, right? How'd we get there? Sorry. And then you need water. There's jars, though. A bunch of jars in the kitchen. Yeah. I want to drink all the sips of that and then get that picture. Now, again, I'm going to come through, right? You've got me on the right. I'm going to take my blue and I'm going to come through and I'm going to come underneath. then sometimes I like to just refine lines because I'm a person and I'll pull that down to a darker, maybe not as kind of fix that line there. Sometimes I like to fix a line because I'm like, oh, hey, that got a little. You always take a minute and look at your stuff and be like, do I need to fix this line? Am I good with this? What's going on? Now, all in here, we're really going to be just working our yellow ochre or cad yellow for the most part and a little titch of green, white, and white. So we're playing with those. Woohoo, white. Are we ready, baby? I'm so sorry, guys. Trust me, the coffee keeps me going. It makes me a better teacher. Coffee makes me a better teacher. Yay! So it won't cool down for 30 seconds. Oh, okay, yeah. The cup heated is what happened. As they do. Let's start painting in these leaves, right?
All right. Paint them in.
So pay attention to like the value of the leaves, just like you've been paying attention to anything else. We can definitely come in with yellows, come in with colors, but we're going to be lightening and darkening them as we go. I'm going to put a little more white so it's sort of fresh and flowy. Sometimes it can be tough. So let's start with, I'm going to get a little white. And put a bit of my yellow ochre into it. And a bit of my cad yellow into it. And I'm going to start here. And begin. Got to begin. A little more yellow, maybe. Pulling that up. I know I've got a lot to do over it. Right here. I'm just starting to, I need to get some light values on this surface that I can build up from, because as you can see, a lot of my under of my canvas is showing through.
Mm-hmm.
So to make this easier for myself, I'm just kind of giving this to myself as a base.
While you're doing that, I'm going to, not that one.
And you guys give that to yourself as a base, especially if you're painting student paints. This you'll have to do.
Yeah.
If you're painting student paints, because you have to kind of lighten the dark canvas.
I'm going to leave this over here for folks so I can get you a cup of coffee while you're putting that little background in.
Oh, you got me my coffee, babe. You do? You brought me the hottest coffee in the world and still brought me a fresh one? You're kind of awesome. Again, just painting all these in. I don't want to lose all my lines, so do try to hold on to those a bit. But you can see we're just giving ourselves a nice base to start our flower petals on. We're going to try to make sure that our flower petals are as well executed as our vase. You can't lean to the left. Again, just getting this on as a place to start. Not terrible. Is Stunhands not the most lovely, amazing, incredible, helpful person who gets me coffee? I could not do the show without him. You okay, babe? Do you need a minute to breathe? His cousin's a kraken. Oh my gosh, that's really nice. Let's have a sippy, guys, because this is, it's a more involved project. We're getting to a more realistic. We're going to have a flower that looks like the picture, and so it just takes a minute to get there.
Yeah, it's more than one cup of coffee.
It's more than one cup of coffee. Let's just brush this down. This layer should be a little streaky.
Could you use unbleached titanium?
You can always use unbleached titanium. Who keeps asking that question?
You are not allowed to use unbleached titanium.
Whoever you are out there, unbleached titanium is fine. Titan buff is fine. It's just off-white.
I think,
If you feel like you'd like to use it, please help yourself.
and if you want to use gray, you can use gray. If you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
use
If you
purple,
have the 50 Shades of Grey paint box, go
or
ahead. Use one of your 50.
pink, pink could be good instead of blue.
Mm-hmm.
Quinacridone water,
Yep.
super
You could
pink.
definitely do that as well, and have a slight pink tinge to the flowers.
So you're not bound to any of the paint selections here.
What I would say is, if you want your painting to look like mine, use the colors I'm using.
Yes.
If you want to just use your own colors, cool.
But it will look different.
It will look different. Don't write like use totally your palette, then write me and be like, I don't know why it looks different.
Okay.
Different palette may make the painting look different. That's okay. Doesn't mean if you want it to look good, no matter what your palette's looking, pay attention to how light or dark it is.
Right.
If you need to, grab a picture of it, put it on your cell phone, take it to grayscale, and look at it.
Something you should know about your dog.
My dog?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Our dog?
Our dog.
The family dog?
Well, this is definitely a your dog time.
Okay. Is she underneath my easel right now?
No.
Oh.
She's standing on your desk, licking the lid of your Starbucks cup so that she can get the little residual coffee bits off the top of it.
Oh, no. Oh, that's a very uncomfortable moment for me.
It's like when you see something happen in the wild and you realize, ooh.
Yeah, but I just realized that my coffee now.
It has been left everywhere, unguarded by the dog. That's why I'm telling you. Let you know that live.
I'm sorry, this is the end of today's show. I have to go freak out in my bedroom. What? Why?
Well, I saw it happening live.
And you shared with me live, so I couldn't
did.
even scream and freak out and run around. This is like that when somebody brings you to a restaurant to break up with you, but so that you don't freak out in public. That's what he just did there.
That was exactly it.
Marriage. It's knowing your partner's weaknesses and explaining them. I love that flower bud so much. There was a Facebook video going around a while back that somebody did of a very similar flower, and this amazing oil artist painted it through all the stages. So like they like painted it every day, and then like it melded together. It was the most incredible thing. I was super impressed by it, I have to say. I'm gonna take a little bit of my burnt sienna into my green, smidge of my yellow. All right, and come here and just start talking about the stem. There we go. Look at this. Got a stem. So this is really roughed in right now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And now we can see what's going on with that in general. I'm going to take a picture here because this is a good important step to have to get to, is that sort of roughed in flower, because you're never going to get to the rest of the flower unless we can rough it in.
Mm-hmm. It almost looks like everything else is done except for the little flower bit.
Everything is done but the flower. Isn't our vase nice? By the way, this vase, you can stick any old flowers in it you want.
Just
It
any
doesn't have
old
to be
flowers.
these flowers. It could be other flowers. And the process of how we painted it would be how you could do it anytime. Now, these are very interesting because there's a lot of shadow on the flower, and I don't want to overplay that shadow, but I don't want to ignore it. So I'm going to take some black into my white, and I'm going to proceed a little cautiously because I don't want to overstep. And then I'll just look at it and be like, oh, dude, is that dark enough? You know, oh, yeah, I need to go a little darker. There we go. So with stuff like this where you're doing white, you will need to do values, but you don't want to do it so intensely that you lose what you did. Where there's too much distance between all your values. That's all I'm saying. So painting that little gray. And you can see that is not having any trouble covering right now, is it?
Mm-mm.
Come on here. There's definitely a little bit of a shadow on that outer lip. And I've got one here. I will be painting a more refined version of this on each leaf, but you got to build it up. If you look at that, this one kind of comes up to that corner and comes back here. Pull that little shadow back. Let's look here. Oh, this goes nice and up the side. Sometimes when we're painting things that are white, it's really challenging for us because you just want to paint it solid white. Like when you're painting clouds, clouds have very little white on them and a lot of every other color around them.
Mm.
But your brain wants you to paint it white. It's what it wants of you. And you have to say, no, brain, no. So what we're doing here is we are finding those basic values again, which you just did very successfully over on the other place, right?
Yep.
Oh, goodness.
What is that?
That is her having that little panic attack she does.
She's just running back and forth doing the dog thing.
Yep. All right, now I'm going to take a little of this yellow, and I am going to tinge it with just, gosh, the smallest amount of green because I want it to still be quite yellow. I'm going to add some white to it. More white. I'm going to pull most of that yellow out. I don't want this to be pure white, but I don't want it to be an obvious any color. I'll put that right there. Over my left shoulder. I'm going to come right here. Are you getting the coffee you already got me? You're the best, just so you know. And all I'm doing is just painting kind of a couple steps of the lights and darks that we will see on the lilies. We are going to do a more blended version of this. Right now we're laying it in. You're trying to see where the stuff is. That's quite nice. Building it up. Hopefully it's starting to develop on your canvas. That's what we're doing. We're developing it on our canvases, right?
Mm.
And I'm still painting that number 8 bright, mostly because I don't need to change yet. Not beneficial yet for me to change. I'm just working out a couple of these lights and darks. I actually think there's more dark right there, but I can put that back in a second. And let's get a general going on the seed pod, and then we're going to get serious. We'll be working it out per petal.
Per petal.
I'm going to get back into that cool initial kind of yellow-green that I did. It was so cool. It was a really cool yellow-green. Exaggerating that a bit. And yes, it is super okay to exaggerate things.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. We just want to give ourselves the basis for having a good painting experience. That gives us our next kind of little sense of things. And now we kind of, oh, there's highlights, there's shadows. We know we're going to see them in here. We know what we're looking for, and we're ready to paint the flower.
Mm.
You're like, what have we been doing? We've been laying out the flower. Or blocking.
Blocking in the flower.
Blocking in the flower. Now we're going to get into a round brush. And I think I will go ahead. Maybe my cat's tongue would do this really well. I'm going to do my cat's tongue. You could do a round. And I'm picking my cat's tongue because it has a bit of a point. It has these nice sharp edges, so it'll give me a lot of edges. You could do a round or a brush that you have a lot of control over. It's all fine with me. Let's begin with this one. I'm going to grab a little bit of my white value.
If you were feeling particularly, you know,
Do I need a bubble?
interesting. No.
Oh.
I was say you've got this nice firm brush, but you could always paint with some wet spaghetti.
Sure. If you felt like it, why would we do that?
I don't know, because you don't want the firm control of a good brush.
If that is what you'd like, I am not here to tell you what to do in your own studio.
It's true. But the firm brush helps.
The firm brush certainly helps quite a lot. I'm going to continue to brush this back. So this isn't a pure white. This is just slightly kind of toned with a bit of yellow. And I'm brushing this back. I'm going to be having to do some wet into wet. And that's okay.
Now, wet into wet means that the paint on the bottom is still wet and you're painting wet paint into that.
Into wet paint and able to blend. So I will move a little quickly. I may mix a little of the blue and the black together. Right there. To get my grays. Just because I think they'll look nice. And what I've got to do is go, where's my dark little area? And you got to ask yourself, how dark is it?
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to have a bit of a range. If you're like, well, it's a little bit like that. This is pretty there. And then let's bring that. And you see how the shadow kind of comes almost along the edge of that petal?
Yeah.
And then brings it a bit in. Another one there. Now I'm going to rinse out, and while everything is still wet, I'm going to take this brush and kind of smooth this out. I'm going to blend these two together. And I can always come back with a little bit of a lighter color. And again, notice that I'm blending them together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to make huge, hard transitionals. Got kind of a light value on the edge there. Maybe there's like a bit of a light spot right there. That's nice. There's another little light spot. And you may have to go back and get like more light spots because you might be a half tone or one tone close to it. Look at that gray. This comes along the edge because this little part of the petal is turned. And I'm brushing very softly. I'm not brushing hard. And if you need to get into under the petal, right? We're pretty familiar with what we've got there. Under the petal is a bit darker. There we go. Sometimes I rinse out if I've got too much of something on there and I've got to soften it. Now, the inside of these is definitely a green. start thinking about that. I want to blend that out there. See, I'm softly working it in. This works if the paint is wet. Come back with any value. I'm just going to shade it till I find the shape of the petal. Got a lot more yellow on that. Let's see, and I might even get a lot more yellow into it. Right here. So hopefully that's a darker value as we go back into the flower. Keep valuing that dark. Petals. I definitely want to have sharp edges on the petals, and I'm going to take a little yellow at the tip here. I'm going to be doing this for all of them. Kind of considered painting. Blending back a little bit more white. Put some white right there. These are little hot spots of white that I kind of get on top that show the shape, right? Come around the outer edge, a bit of a highlight. On the edge of the petal. And then anytime you can get back from it and take a look, it is a good idea. My dark shadow, right? Because we want those petals to be separate of each other. This petal, oh, let me get a picture of this. And then we're going to keep going on the petals.
Yeah, it's a good picture time. The petals are looking really pretty.
You got to play with petals for a minute. Yes, you have to play with your petals, and you're going to use a lot of white on this particular one. And if you get back, you're like, oh, that's, you want to get this first layer in, and then you got to come back in and go, was that the right lighting? Is that dramatic enough? How is that? And again, it's blue and black over here with some of our white for our shadows. I'll get some water in there so I have that color for a minute. Let's start painting it since we've mixed it out. Maybe a little more gray. So it's just a choice. You could do just gray. You could do pink, as John said. You could do lots of different things. Now, if you'll notice on this, there's this sort of shadow that kind of comes around here and then up over. I've got to deal with that. It may be lighter than this. It may get darker than this, but I've got to deal with the fact that it's there. Add a little lighter value. Doesn't really go everywhere, and then there's a bit of it right here, and I definitely have some ribs of it coming down, but I just want to shade it. I'll get some more white. Dark shadow on that, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Coming out. And we can always have a little yellow into that. or lighter color. And paint this leaf. There's a little bit there, and there could be a little bit kind of on that outside edge. I'll go ahead and rinse this out. I just want to soften these lines just a bit. If I can, right? Just soften them a bit. That works while the paint is still wet. I'm not using a medium. I am using speed, but I'm not using a medium. There is some speed component to this whole thing. I'm going to put out some more phthalo blue over here. And I may put out some phthalo green and phthalo yellow closer to my white over here, just so I can be mixing these little micro values and kind of getting into it with everybody. Like you want to, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a very, very dark color. So if there was a, you know, kind of a dark area right here where this petal lifted up, you could easily paint that very dark value in. Kind of saying, oh, that petal is a bit in extreme shadow at the stem. Maybe a little yellow into that one. Water to improve flow. A highlight that happened right here. And another one. And a sort of center one. If I've got too much water on my brush, sometimes it'll lay down too much everything, so I've got to wipe it out. You'll see me wipe out with towels a lot of times. And these two sort of blended together, so I'll have to put those shadows back. Because what I want to do is somehow capture those ribs. Again, making sure that I'm good. Now, the shadows are that gray color, right? Of which we've got a bunch. Let's see if I can get it into my leaf this way. Put it in this way. Let's come up here and say, from here, there's a bit of that. And then he's got a little friend right next to him, like that. These are the little shadows, right? And then from the center, and I'm brushing this, right? And maybe we'll kind of blend this into the more extreme shadow that's happening here. This can be sort of blended into that. Soft brush strokes, right? Because we're trying to blend our acrylic. As you do. As all of us do. This is kind of nice here because it comes out and it's a bit bright. A bit of a kind of comet shape. Soften it. There we go. And I definitely want to kind of curve that petal over. If your paint is dry, you can always get into halftones to kind of transition between a lighter area and a darker area. See what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not like stuck with it, and I can always kind of imply the very lightest shadow coming down the petal. There we go. Look at that. Playing with the light and shadow a little bit. And also playing with the highlights and the cast of value into it. There's a neat little highlight that pops right there. Just be patient with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Takes a minute. I'm gonna put some green and yellow in there. Let's say that right in the center of this is some pretty strong green. And if you need to darken it, because it's in shadow, you can always add the burnt sienna. There we go. Green coming up, and I'm going to come in and cast a bit of yellow into that green. Right there. So that petal has that nice sort of green center. Fight for the value. You got to fight for your right to have value. Okay. Trying to capture this like really interesting little shaping of light that happened. Sometimes you just gotta capture the shaping of the light. How are we feeling about that?
Pretty good.
Getting there, right?
Yeah.
Now coming up on the seed pod, that's gonna be fun and a lot less challenging. So a little of our burnt sienna green that we've been loving with our cad yellow. And it's nice to sort of take this around. Rinse out thoroughly. If I need to clean it up, what can I do? Oh yeah, my old trusty standby, go back into the black.
Ah.
If anything overpainted or lost the sharpness that you wanted for it, what could you do? Simply put the black background back. I'm going to go ahead and grab a picture just in case.
That's a good time. It looks really good.
And the reason, so normally in paintings, like I do like one layer and then one layer and kind of come back around to more layers. The reason in this we're not is so that we're building it all up as we go, and then in the last we'll get those stamens going. Just an easier way for us to get there. I'm going to take a little of my yellow into that green. I got a little white. Let's put a bit of a reflection on the stem right there. Maybe even brighter, maybe even with more white. That looks good. I love the hint of green and yellow and everything going on in the pods.
Yeah.
Kind of up here at this petal, there's like that hint of green. I'm brushing that in. There's a bit of it here. And then as we come through, there's a sort of like yellow. There we go. A lot more white. I like just painting those little colors out. Sometimes we've got a little bit of a shadow under the flower. And you just put that in. There's a bit of a yellow cast to it there. Then you can put that little shadow in with a bit of a yellow cast. See how I do? I like this color. So I'm going to go right here and put it down real fast. Sometimes you'll have a color and you'll be like, this is really good for something I got to do later. Take it while you've got it. And hit it the places you're like, oh man, that'd be like really cool here. That'd be like really cool. There we go. I really like that. Seed pod's my favorite part so far. Not seed pod. Flower bud. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Everybody holding on?
Very much so.
So we really are explaining the process.
Uh-huh.
Good deal. Guess what we gotta do here?
Gotta,
Same thing we do every day, Pinky. More flower buds.
More flower layers.
More flower layers. More of it. More, more, more. Got a lot going on here. Go ahead and get a little of my kind of colors here. And just to start, I'm going to brush that back. Maybe brush some of that forward. And say, hey, there's a whole lot afoot here. Some of the gray. And I like that softer gray, so I'm going to get some of that softer gray. I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to come through here. Even softer, though. I really like it soft, soft, soft. I want to soften some of the stuff. Because what's most important? Values. there, and there we go. And that petal's looking really good. I can always get a little bit of the yellow into it. Put it up in there, but I like it. Getting a little bit more of that gray. I'm going to come here just real fast. Brush this down. It's a great color. I don't want to lose it. A little more yellow. Brushing it up from the base, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's our green? Our green is our burnt sienna. And our yellow and our phthalo. Not bad, right?
Yeah.
So we're getting that green blush going. I may even get just a smidge of the yellow on here and a lot more of the white, wherever I have it going on. Putting some highlights. Couple places to say that some brighter light has hit it. I am very much liking this flower painting.
Mm-hmm. I like it too.
We had a really good suggestion in group that we do a painting series that it's all the month's flowers, so you could do your birth flower.
Oh
your
yeah,
birthday.
that would be really fun to do too.
Yeah, it's real similar. My friend Stephanie did the gemstone project where she did all the gemstones that were for your birthday.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool. Doodle gems, I think. Doodle all the gems for all the birthstones. If you felt like it. Many people did. I'll go ahead and grab just a little of my yellow ochre. I'm going to get it into my white here.
Oh, you're right over there on the edge.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to come right here. Just make sure that I've got some of that brushed on. I do want that shadow. I just want it knocked back a bit. Just, yeah. Little water. Same thing. I'm going to come here over the edge. Got a little crazy with that leaf, but we know that I can take it back with a little bit of black paint. Back into the soft gray that I was messing with. Okay, that wonderful soft gray. Soft, 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 soft. It has to be soft, soft, soft. There we go. How's that petal looking? Little blue, little black, makes our gray. This one has a pretty deep shadow. It comes right here, pulls down a bit. And one here. And then interestingly enough, to form the center of the flower, there's a bit of a good one here. So once I have that on, where I've got that shape, I am going to soften it with my brush. See what I'm doing? Works because the paint is wet, right? Nicely softened shadows. Little yellow ochre, little cad yellow together. They make a nice kind of mid-tone. More into my white. There's this interesting kind of yellow cast right here.
Mm.
Mm. A little more white. Just brushing those in. That's looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Two more of these suckers.
Two
How do you
more.
feel about them?
I think they look pretty good. They're
I'm ready to drink some coffee, man. This has been a long journey.
The lily is a walk around the lake.
The lily is a walk around the lake. It's a lazy stroll around the lake for sure.
But that's okay. It looks pretty good.
The goal is just to figure out how to paint these things. Now, remember, what happens when our petals get messy?
Mm,
We get into our black,
I don't know. Trim them up?
trim it up.
Ah, there you go.
See how that cleans everything up?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it does clean everything up. You can always, wonderful thing about having a very strong background is that where you need to, you can come back and really fix anything.
Wow.
Watch for drips. I don't want any drips to happen, so I'm going to come here and make sure that sometimes when you have a lot of wet application and your surface is like vertical, everything gravity works.
You can test it, but chances are it does.
I can come in and tip out the tip of a petal to give it like some certain dynamic shapes. You know, you can go around your seed pod and make that stand. Whatever you got to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
How are we doing? It's a pretty flower. Let's continue painting pretty flowers.
I think it was the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that described the art of flying as the ability to throw yourself at the ground and miss.
Is that what I'm doing? Am I throwing myself at the ground and missing? I don't know. I hope so.
I love that approach to logic.
I'm going to continue to kind of use those colors I'm really liking. Make a nice little, not as intense. So sometimes it's like hard to get the values down soft enough. Sometimes I've got to get back in and this is an interesting one. So under here it gets quite kind of dark, but there's an interesting kind of yellow-green cast to it. If I can capture that.
Over here on the ledge. Oh, moving the wrong camera. I want to move the palette cam over there and see what you're doing on the edge.
I'm going to so I put a little green cast in that shadow. Just a little bit of one. I'll soften the edges. If I've got to come here for For a darker one, I really can because there is a very deep kind of value underneath this lip. Down into this. And I may even, while I'm here, add some of that to a couple places because we have a few deep values that we didn't quite get into that we're just going to set up for our petals. Looking good. Get some green and yellow. Let's put some burnt umber in that so it's like toned down a bit. Calm down. A little of my yellow ochre.
This is really amazing.
You like
Turned
it?
out really nice, yeah.
I'm enjoying it. A nice, enjoyable piece. I'm going to do a soft brush around. I'm going to feather kind of brush it so that the stuff kind of works into each other. Then we have a nice little tip there where the petal goes out.
Wow. This is, I mean, like just when I think you're going to be done, you take a little bit further.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I'm not complaining. I'm just surprised.
Yeah?
It's like it just keeps going and going and going.
Sometimes when I get a color I like to put it different places. And that just kind of sometimes helps unify a thought or an idea so it doesn't look like there's just a patch of color in one location.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, I'll put it a few places to make sure things have not gotten out of hand. A little more yellow. Getting those in there, getting that all sort of defined. Now, rinsed out vigorously.
Vigorous.
Like we do. There is a touch of yellow in there. There is a touch of ochre, but I'm going to make this a little bit brighter. Along that edge just a bit. And I'll feather this so that there's not like a identifiable line. Feather, feather. Okay. Through either value changes or that, you got to soften them lines. That's a nice transition back into the petal. More of that. Here. Goodness gracious. Here we go. More of this.
That's the last petal.
It's the last petal, and then we have stamens.
The little bits in the middle.
Yes, which are fun bits.
Now, question.
Answer.
Mama Moth was asking,
Mama Moth.
How is it that Miss Art Sherpa keeps painting over the same area she's just painted, but the paint is not lifting?
Okay, so a couple of things. Quality of the paint does absolutely help.
Yeah.
I have certain paints that I have in my studio that will lift. And they are more challenging. If you're having your paint lift, you need longer curing times between the layers. Not like as long as you would with oils, but you may need them to cure longer. If you're doing a very watery mix, sometimes it'll take it a while to bind. We used to think it didn't bind, but Golden just came out with a study that maybe if it's left for a couple of weeks, it will still bind. On their paint. They didn't test everybody else's paint. They made no guarantees for anybody else's product. They were just talking about theirs. That's a good thing to be aware of, is that they weren't saying, hey, anyone. I'm mixing a nice gray here. So, the lifting is a thing that happens. You're not imagining it. Because sometimes when stuff happens to you when you're painting, you're like, I imagining this? Is this just me? No, that's a complaint that I get from a lot of students, and I won't out any paint brands. I let my community share their experiences with each other, but I'll say certain brands are much more likely to do it than others. But I do let it in my Facebook groups and stuff like that. I let people talk to each other about like their experiences with companies and brands and things, that you guys can find that stuff out. I am not particularly edgy or salty or anything, so that's not really the basis of my channel. And I tend to only get that way like if student lives are in danger. Then I get a little rough. I'm just kind of shading in a little bit of that right there, and also I want to soften this right here. So you can see I'm just softening. Now I am going to put a highlight back here, but I just want to soften, and I want this to be a little smooth through. So I'm going to soften it a bit as well. I'm just trying to make these a little less couple of the little ripples of the flower. It's looking good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what it is sometimes. Sometimes it really is your products are messing with you. And I always am sad to see a student feel like something is them when it's not. Always like, it's not you. You didn't do it. Nice kind of yellow tinted down into here. Some light color on here. I didn't do that neatly enough. I'll put it back with the shadows. Sometimes that'll happen to me. I get a little rushed and I'm not neat enough. And I have to go back with like other colors to kind of work it out. There's a nice little line there, and then there's kind of a line there. And then if I need to, you know, shade it and everything, I will get in there and do that. Just working that out. This white seems to be unguarded, so I'm going to grab it. You ever see that where you're like, oh, that little bit of white is unguarded? Liking that so far. And again, you can clean up the petals by, guess what?
Using your black paint?
Using your black paint. And then we got to take a picture.
Wow.
And if any place, you know, what I do is I build these after and I post them up in about, you know, anywhere from hours to a day or so, depending on what's going on in my life. And if you're ever having an issue in an area, a lot of times those can really help clarify what it is that's going on and what you needed to do. How is everybody doing?
Great.
I'm going to do a weird thing. I'm going to put out some fresh paint because I've got air conditioning running, and
The
whenever you run
paint.
air conditioning or you're pulling the moisture out of the air,
Yeah.
whether it's through a heater or through an air conditioner, it can be really challenging to keep your paint wet. So I'm going to put out the last little bit of colors fresh, and if John will grab me just from the kitchen any fresh water, you don't have to refill one of these.
Yeah. Let me see what I can do there.
Amazing, baby. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful. This is when I'm going to put out that cad red. I don't need a lot of it. Probably not even that much. It's probably too much. Cadmium red, friends. Probably too much. Thank you, baby. Fresh water is always a good idea when you're trying to have like a clean. I'm going to also dry this real quick to see how it's looking.
Okay. So, yeah, it's she just wants to make sure that she sees that the paint is a consistent color. See how as it dries, the sheen changes there a little bit. That's what she's wanting to make sure, is that as she sees it dry, that everything looks consistent.
Let's put out some more white, as you do. Or as I do, as somebody does. Somebody needs to put out some white. And we will still use a little of our black and blue just if we need shadows and things like that. That's never a bad plan. Have those in the side. Hoping that those, those need to be dealt with. All right. So I'm going to do an interesting thing because I think contrast is going to be a big thing about getting these stamens to show. I'm going to grab a good round. This is my number 4 round. And there's a few stamens that we see, like we really see them. There's like that forward stamen. There's one kind of coming up here. And you can always use your chalk tool if your background's dry, the chalking tool, which I don't know where I put my chalk. Never mind. Here it is. So if you're like, you want to sketch and you want to not damage your painting, you can always use your chalking tool and be like, I think, this one's going to come here and come down. I do see this one here. There's certainly a group of these that are taking up a space down here, aren't they? And we do see one sort of here and a shadow of his friend there. So we don't see all of them. We really see them in the same way we sort of see these stems via their highlights and shadows. So let's make a little bit of our green, our yellow green that they have. I'm going to do an interesting thing. I'm going to get black into it. Come here. We're going to paint most of what's down here. We've got this nice darker color, and you can get blue into it if you need to deepen it even more. That's pretty good. We're going to use a lot of highlights to make this work. But what we're trying to do is make sure that we've got something that we can shade and put some form into. So this one here comes up right about there. This one we know where it goes, and we'll have a lot of shading to do, but even having this dark color to start with will allow us to still kind of retain our light and dark that we have to do. There is one that comes here that we really see, and it's got a friend that's alongside of it. Now, that's not bad. We've got those, and we've got that kind of shadow. we're going to want to get back into our lighter green value and our white, because now we're going to sort of shade into that, and we're going to retain, which is why you're going to see me putting some water in here to improve flow. We're going to try to keep some of those dark values really showing. I don't want to take it all away. The dark value will help each of the stems feel like separate little beings. And if I remove all of it, and when you see me dipping in water, I'm just trying to improve flow. I'm trying to make sure that those dark values retain. So again, we know that we've got the dark here going on. Come underneath and exaggerate. So that we can really see them. As I go forward, we get more yellow. Yeah, there's a bit of yellow in it. That looks good.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can, I'm going to get some of this white. If it doesn't flow beautifully, I'll switch to my fluid white, because that will. What you see me doing is thinning my paint, rolling the pigment out of my brush, and loading the tip, so that I have some control over what's going on. Otherwise, you know. Don't those look super good? Now the top of this main one is a bit almost like an orange. I'm going to get a little of my red. I'm going to tap out this shape like you do. Look at that. Starting to see that shape. If you want a little more yellow at the top of it, you can get it. I may even grab some of my white. Make sure I can really see that. I just rinsed out. And let's exaggerate. Shall we?
Mm-hmm.
When we exaggerate, sometimes I'm going to bring a little of that down. That little orange color kind of went down a bit into the stem part. Now, let's mix some orange, some distinctive orange, which is our cad red and our yellow. We've got our burnt sienna here. You could take black over, but if you take blue, it makes an interesting, very dark color that isn't toned with black. We have one seed pod that's above this one whose stem is hidden from us. Then this one. Maybe there's a tucked one right here. Yeah, we're just starting. That's pretty good. Seed pods in the center of our flower. I'm going to get the orange into my burnt sienna. These are like weird little loaves.
Yeah, like little loaves on a
Little
stalk.
baguettes.
Yeah.
This is very similar to how you paint a little baguette. Not bad. I'm going to keep getting my yellow into it. Maybe some red, but definitely my yellow into it. And then make sure that I've got little highlights. I like them.
Really good.
Almost done, guys.
Looking great.
We are so close. Come back and kind of define some of these shapes a bit with my shadows. To clean them up some. Give me hitting it with just a final little highlight, right?
Yep.
How do you like your lily?
I love it. You know, this is one of those strange ones where I thought it was going to be like, you know, you just blast right through it, but it had a lot of detailed layers.
I think what happens to people is when they get into flowers, and if you're painting them anything other than ultra loose, they are more time intensive than you think. They are. I'm going to show you some tricks. I'm going to get my fluid out. I got to sign anyways. Couple places. And take my white fluid paint and create some very intense little highlights. Very intense little definitions.
Mm-hmm.
See how that creates a whoa moment.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the whoa moment comes from. Some of the things that help our lily feel very lily-ish happen here. Little thing you might not know that you can do.
Oh, that's another way of cleaning up those edge lines.
It is, and it creates this. If this is like where you're hitting your like white is white, it does produce some very beautiful.
Everyone is loving this.
Little thoughtful highlights. So you can really see it pop, pop, pop.
Mm-hmm.
Or the little ribs or elements or just anything, you know, because sometimes like it's very hard to sit there and say, oh, I can see all the ribs or reflections. And then when you have that all where you're happy with it, I'm going to go ahead and get into my green yellow. I don't want just a white signature, and I'll come underneath here. There we go.
Wow.
I can't wait to see yours.
Me either. That turned out so nice.
Super. Look at that. Aren't you super pleased with it?
I'm super pleased with that.
It's a nice floral that you can do. And it is hard sometimes when you're painting things that are white and when they're lit where they cast a strong shadow, right? That can be really challenging. So it's nice to know how to do that. Sometimes it's hard to know how you paint things like water or just different elements of what you've got going on. These are skills that'll translate into any of your paintings. I think we should bubble on our way out because this was a big project. I think so too.
We can pull some bubbles in.
Right? You know, we will have a little bit of important stuff going on in April. If you love the show and you want to see more of what's going on, you want to be part of this free program, which by the way, you don't have to do anything to sign up. It's just they're going to show up here. If you want to know what days and when things are, you know, it's a great idea to make sure you hit the bell and subscribe. It's also a really great idea to sign up for text notifications if you're in North America. But we will be notifying you every day in April. So every day there'll be a notification. Just be really, really excited to do everything. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.